Three, two, one, and we are live. Welcome once again to HeroQuest fans on this Friday. So I know that it says HeroQuest. I know that it's showing the HeroQuest logo, but I just want to let you know we are not actually doing HeroQuest today. So let me explain myself. We have done these really fun, really great interactive readings in the past with some of the Dave Morris HeroQuest novels, which commonly referred to these days as game books. So what I mean by that are these. And a lot of people who aren't like super in the know, but more casuals like myself will call these Choose Your Own Adventure. Choose Your Own Adventure was the series in the 80s and 90s that was really popular with kids, like 8th grade level. And the idea behind them was, you'd be reading your book and then you get to a choice where you have to decide, okay, I'm going to fight this guy, I'm going to go to a different page. And so it's not just a straightforward story. You've got actual choices you can make. And so those were a lot of fun, but I read through all of them. And we haven't done one in quite a while. And I know people probably haven't memorized them. But I kind of wanted to show you some of the other books that I've got and let you guys, the fans, decide which one we're going to read. And this is going to be a shorter, more casual stream. I mean, we had an epic rant cast with Strange Bus last night. Went into the wee hours, and I'm a little tired. And I got some other things I got to do today, so it's not going to be super long. But, we can do a couple read-throughs. Maybe get some adventures going. And you can use your channel points, your gold coins, to vote on the choices. So when we get to a choice in the story, you can have a little fun, influence the decision of the story, and of course, after a certain amount of time, I'm just going to pick something if nobody chooses anything. So let's just take a look. Oh, I need to get into quest talk here. Sorry, everybody. All right, yeah, welcome once again to HeroQuest fans. Like I said, we're doing a little something different, but it's not too different from what we've done in the past, because on Saturdays, we like to do an actual live HeroQuest game. On Fridays, we'll talk about news in the world of HeroQuest, and right now there really isn't any other than the HeroQuest companion app, which only works on Android and Apple devices, portable devices, but if you have a fast enough computer, if you have a newer PC, you can use an emulator like BlueStacks. It's not an endorsement or anything, just saying you can use an emulator like BlueStacks to actually download the companion app and play it on your computer. Just be careful with the full screening effect, because if you do that, it crashes a lot, I've noticed. But anyway, they added Into the Northlands, which was the prelude free quest to the Frozen Horror, which had a lot of the errata, the Snow Dasher wolf that can follow you around, different things like that. So they added a little bit to it and maybe some bug fixes. We haven't really tested or checked to see what else might be different. But yeah, I mean, they're continuing to maintain that. And PulseCon is coming up at the end of the month, but we may or may not hear much there related to HeroQuest specifically. So yeah, not as much HeroQuest this time. But tomorrow, Saturday, as we usually do, every Saturday we try to do a live HeroQuest game on this stream, twitch.tv/HeroQuestFans. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are not live right now, but we're live on Twitch. So you can always go to Twitch. You can look at the Discord there below, and you can interact with us. If you're one of those people that doesn't want to, use your real voice on stream, hey, that's okay. I understand if you're bashful or if you just don't have a good sound or good reception. If you want to follow us on the chat, you can actually use your Twitch chat to interact, because I don't necessarily check the Discord while I'm streaming. But let me just tell everybody that we're streaming, because we're just getting started here. All right, testing, 1, 2, 3. The stream is live, guys. Feel free to join, and you can join me in Quest Talk if you want. All right, sorry about that. Just kind of getting the word out here. Hey, Ribby, welcome. Hey, thanks for joining us last time. Yeah, I had a great time on the Rantcast. The only thing I don't understand is why does it show people in the chat, and yet when I click participants, it doesn't show anybody? I don't understand. Ribby, can you hear us? Oh, hear me. It's just me right now. So we got our little dice rolling box, handmade. And I've got my game books here. So we're going to decide what we're going to read. So in a minute here, I'm going to show you what books I've got. Let's see. Always adjusting the cameras. Forever adjusting the cameras. Okay. You. All right, there we go. Game books. Gotta love them. That's odd. I don't understand why the chat is not showing me. Oh, I know why. It's because I'm looking at OBS. Like OBS has its own like chat, whereas Twitch itself is where it really is, and you may not see everything. Okay, let me go here. Okay, so it's just you and me, Ribby, for now. But yeah, we're talking game books. So I don't know if you remember Choose Your Own Adventure from the 80s, 90s. I guess it went into the 2000s, but yeah. So the various game books I've got, there's a couple different series. This was one that I remember from my youth. This was kind of my first choice. Wizards, Warriors, and You. And let me see, who is the author of these books? I almost said R.L. Stine, like the Goosebumps guy, but no, it's Eric Affabee. Earl Norham is the illustrator. But yeah, this is from, let's see, some of these are not in very good condition, but we'll just do what I can. These are vintage books. Oh yeah, R.L. Stine did the first one. So yeah, before Goosebumps. Okay, this was 1984. It's book 2. Siege of the Dragon Riders, and book 7, Challenge of the Wolf Knight. Let's see who did this one. Oh, this is R.L. Stine. So there you go. See, Goosebumps was after my time, but I remember these books well from my childhood. I would go to the library, just get a stack of them, and just, blow an afternoon or two. So 1985, Conquest of the Time Master. But the purpose of these books is, whoopsie. Sorry about that. Forgot I'd set myself a reminder. So I will have to duck out eventually here because I have a babysitting gig I got to do. But yeah, so the idea behind these stories is Wizards, Warriors, and You. I mean, it's written in the second person, so it's you or whatever. Well, I guess you take the role of either the wizard or the warrior. And so you either choose spells if you're the wizard, or you choose weapons and armor equipment as the warrior. So you're like a knight type character. It's the book of spells. Let's see in the back of the book. Here we go. So we've got the book of weapons, used only by the warrior. As a warrior, you may use all the weapons listed here, but remember, a great warrior uses wisdom as well as might. And so, yeah, it's the honor system, but I mean, you decide. You've got the Sword of the Golden Lion, Two-Handed Battle Sword, Cutlass of Cornwall, Triple Crossbow. I always remember that one. The Bludgeon, the Flail, the Whistling Mace, the Devil's Dagger, the Flying Spear. Now that you're suitably armed, yeah. Now, if you pick the Wizard, and it may vary from book to book. As the Wizard, you get the Book of Spells. You may use any of these powerful spells. I joined on Discord, but I'm in the car. Sound. Yeah, that's okay, Ribby. Yeah, so we're talking game books here on HeroQuest fans. So I know that, like in the past, we've done live interactive readings of the Dave Morris HeroQuest novels, but since we've already gone through all those, I just want to show you these other books that I've got. So yes, here are some of the spells. So move time forward, Forest Imps freeze, Conjurer's confusion. Oh, these are different. I think he gets different magic. Invisibility, Sorcerer's sleep, command animals, shape shift into the wind, flight, Merlin's fire. Oh yeah, I remember that. Shrink, combat magic. Oh yeah, this spell allows you to combat a magic spell that has been used against you or against a companion. It will immediately dispel any magic except that of a Grand Wizard. So if you encounter a Grand Wizard, watch out. Spell requires such concentration and energy that after performing it, the spellcaster must rest for an entire day. It can only be used once during an adventure. But most of this magic, you could just kind of choose it to use at any time. So it's like a lot of other game books. You know, you write down what equipment you've got, and then you take it with you. And then, depending on what's available, you turn to that page and play. But yeah, that's Wizards, Warriors, and You. So that's one option. We could read one of those books. What else do I have? Time Machine. So everybody remembers Choose Your Own Adventure, but Time Machine was a series that I really liked. And it's different because it's like pop history. So it's not 100%, this is not like historical scholarship necessarily, but they tried to be a little more historically accurate. They try to be educational. So this is for 10 and up. So it's a little bit older, for a little bit older audience. 1984. But yeah, this was the series Time Machine, and it was different than Choose Your Own Adventure because Choose Your Own Adventure they had a series for like little kids that were like really short books, and they only had a few endings. But most of the books, it was like you have an adventure. There isn't necessarily any logic to it. Sometimes it's just luck. And most of the time you're reading along and it's like, oh, you made the wrong choice, you died, or whatever. It ends your adventure. So you got to flip back and try to make a different choice to see if you get a good ending. Well, Time Machine, there's only one ending, which is that you solve the case. You go back in time to like learn some information, seek some truth, get some evidence of some theory. And if you break the rules of time travel, you can be stuck in time. And so you don't realize it at first, but you're reading along and you're like, wait a minute, I'm stuck in a loop. I can't get out of this. Like I'll make a choice and I'll go to this page and then I can't get back. So I'm stranded in time. So the Time Machine books were really cool, but it's a little bit more like a puzzle, a little bit more educational, a little bit more reading and fewer choices. But yeah, the 4 rules of time travel, which I thought these were really cool. Because time travel is so awesome. It's just use your imagination. You must not kill any person or animal. Sensible. You must not try to change history. Do not do anything from the past. Do not take anything from the... Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm reading it wrong. I was trying to read it on camera. Do not leave anything from the future in the past. You must not take anybody when you jump in time. Because you jump in time. Avoid disappearing in a way that scares people or makes them suspicious. You must follow instructions given to you by the Time Machine. You must choose from the options given to you by the Time Machine. Hey, Strange Bus. So we're talking game books here. I'm talking about all these game books from my childhood. Because, reading those Dave Morris HeroQuest interactive novels was so much fun that I just wanted to show you these others. And I was wanting... At first I was thinking, man, I'm going to collect all the Choose Your Own Adventure books. But to be honest with you, like a lot of the ones from the 70s and the 80s, like I'm really nostalgic about, but the ones written after that, not so much. Like these were written, I was older and I wasn't reading them. But, people online are selling like these lots. You get your equipment and everything. They're selling these lots of stuff, and they're just big stacks, big piles of books, and you get a mixed bag, so you'll get different series. So this was Time Machine. I thought these were really awesome. But yeah, there's really only one ending. Otherwise, you get stranded in time. And I already talked about Wizards, Warriors, and You. So you choose one of 2 characters, either the Wizard or the Warrior, and you have these fantasy adventures. What other ones? Let's see. There's all kinds of like themed ones. So Dungeons and Dragons actually had a game book, Endless Quest. This one I have not read yet. But I think you're a cleric in this one. And this is just a straight up choose your own adventure. So, you're reading along and then it comes to a choice and it's like, okay, what do I do? You don't necessarily have to play the Dungeons and Dragons game, but of course they promote it. Good and bad endings. Can't pull a Bill and Ted. Yeah. Every rose has its thorn. Yeah. And then what are some of the other ones here? Some of these I did not read as a kid. Oh, wow. This blew me away as a kid. Way of the Tiger. This is not for the faint of heart. Like, you get to a certain stage in your life as let's say as a young boy, and you're like, I'm not scared. I'm gonna watch a horror movie and brag to all my friends how brave I was. And you read these stories and there's just blood and gore in them, and they're just like kind of edgy, and you're a ninja. This is Way of the Tiger. This is not for the faint of heart. Like, this is not. Let's see, what age is it intended for? They don't even say. But I would say this is like teenagers. Look at the complexity here. So you got like a number of throwing stars. You've got combinations of stuff. You're supposed to roll dice for this one, like D6s. Keep track of your combat. And there's a lot of like gruesome stuff in here. There's like a lot of gory deaths, a lot of blood, characters that, stab you in the back, betrayals and things. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart. This is not for like young kids. But yeah, when I read it, I'm like, whoa, this is intense. But the plot of the series, Way of the Tiger, it starts out, you're a ninja, you learn to be like this super assassin, and eventually you try to assassinate the evil warlord, evil overlord. You take over and you become the emperor of this fantasy world. And then you have to protect yourself, because now it's like Scarface. Everybody's coming to take you out. And so they're trying to assassinate you. And you go on these adventures and everything, and you've got to appease the people, you've got to appease the different warrior factions, the different religions in the world. There's all kinds of magic, there's all kinds of intrigue. It's really interesting, but yeah, it's for older kids. Yeah, but I had one of these books. I had book 4, which is Overlord, and then I bought the whole series. And some of them were hard to track down. So some of these books, like, you'll get them and they're just falling apart because they're just paperbacks that kids read. And, other times it's just they're really rare. Other series that I did not even know existed as a kid, but I would have just been really excited about. So a lot of kids my age were reading, like, the Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Magician's Nephew, and all those books. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I'm reading other stuff. But then I was in my local junior theater, and we did a play. We did The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I'm like, oh, this is why everybody likes the Chronicles of Narnia. This is really sweet. This is really cool. And even before I knew about like all the religious symbolism in it, which made it interesting to me, it was just like, this is a really cool fantasy adventure. It's like a junior Lord of the Rings in a sense, because C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were friends. I mean, they compared notes, they argued about stuff. They were both writing their respective stories. Of course, Tolkien was much more like, this is not allegory. This is just, my story. Whereas C.S. Lewis is like, no, I'm trying to teach kids like moral lessons using this symbolism. So anyway, these were not written by C.S. Lewis, of course, but the Narnia books. So they put you back in the world. They give you adventures. And these are a little bit more beat up because they expect you to actually write on the map with your pencil. They expect you to write in the book. But you roll dice, and yeah, so I've painstakingly erased all this stuff. And of course, on this old cheap paper, try not to destroy it. But yeah, you've got your different skills. So it's a little more involved, a little more of a thinking man's thing. And you've got actually a map that you're supposed to chart your progress and your location and everything. And you've got all kinds of, you got to use your wits. So yeah, this is more involved. I have not read these, but I would love to check these out. So yeah, you're in the world of Narnia. So you've got the Sorceress and the Book of Spells. I think this is the whole series. That's book 2. Book 1 is Return to Deathwater. So that makes me think of The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. That makes me think of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Lost Crowns of Cair Paravel, that could be any of the stories. Maybe The Silver Chair. Leap of the Lion, I guess that could be anything. This is book 3, 4. Yeah, I think that's the whole series. But based on the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. And let's see, what year were these written? Again, I want to say the 80s. Let's see, 1988. Oh, Return of the White Witch. Oh, so there was a 5th book. Okay, so my collection is not yet complete. These were kind of expensive, though. What else do we have? This. Now, Amalgamash beat me to it, but Lone Wolf. Look at those names. So Joe Deaver, he passed away not that long ago. I want to say a couple years ago. He was the author, and then Gary Chalk did the illustrations. And you'll notice something, like this series is clearly based on Dungeons and Dragons, but it's like they took the world and changed it. So the world is called Magnamund. It's like the big world, great world or whatever. And they're not orcs, they're Gaiacs. And there's Dark Lords, but they're, let's see, what are they called? Oh yeah, here's the world. There's like alternate names for stuff, but it's very clearly inspired by Dungeons & Dragons and the Dungeons & Dragons world, but it's without being officially licensed. Patrick, I always like how, you get remnants of someone else's childhood in these books. The Kai. So instead of the Jedi, it's the Kai. And you're basically like these warrior / ranger / wizard type characters, but I mean, you have these skills that you learn from your training. You're like it's a very interesting kind of take on the whole like warrior monk, sorcerer, wizard type thing, but they call them Kai disciplines. So it's kind of like peak human knowledge. Come on, focus. What are we doing here? Okay. So you've got camouflage, hunting, because yeah, you have to eat food every so often, so you get hungry. So if you've got hunting, you don't have to carry food, you can just hunt. Sixth sense, tracking, healing, that's important. Weapon skill, and of course you got these cool illustrations. Doesn't this look familiar? This style of illustration. So Gary Chalk did the illustrations for the classic Hero Quest, 1989, 1990, 91. He did the same illustrations for Hero Quest as for Lone Wolf. And he also did illustrations for Warhammer Fantasy. So that same style is all throughout, like, his work. Like, you'll start to see, like, if you look at some of the pictures of the characters, it has very familiar, like, warty, hairy, wrinkled, characters and ugly monsters. So Mind Shield, Mind Blast. Sounds familiar. Animal Kinship, Mind Over Matter. And as you read these books, you can have more Kai disciplines. So you carry over the skills you learned from previous adventures and you get one more. And you keep successfully making through these books without getting killed. And you gather more until you're finally Magna Kai. So you're at your highest level. There was a spin-off series called World of Lone Wolf, which featured a character called Greystar the Wizard, and that was straight up magic. But in this one, you're a Kai Lord. So you have these Kai disciplines. So it's an interesting take, that type of character. And here's your equipment. You got to carry meals. And you've got your armor, healing potion. It looks like perfume, but yeah. You got to carry gold. And so you got to do diplomacy with people. You got to trade. Sometimes you got to fight. And the combat can be really intense and you can get killed. Limited carrying capacity. Weapons, special items, backpack items, gold crowns. That's what the money was called. Rules for combat. So there's a whole combat rule thing. And what you're supposed to do is, in the back of the book, they would always have this random number table. So first you had to calculate your combat skill. So they would tell you the skill of the monster you're fighting, and then you have to find it on here. Then you're supposed to take like the tip of a pencil eraser and like close your eyes and spin it around and oh, I got a 0. Oh, I got a 7. What you can do is you can just take a 10-sided die So if you've got your D&D dice, you can actually use that. It's kind of a little easier, a little more fun. Or I just went out and bought one just specifically so I could play this. So anyway, there's a whole series of these books, and I'm most nostalgic about maybe the first 5. But as the series goes on, because originally it was just going to end. Oh yeah, here's some of the art. That's classic, like Gary Chalk artwork. Very, very Warhammer Fantasy-esque, and very HeroQuest, reminiscent of HeroQuest, because it's the same. Come on, focus. Some other things, but yeah, you make choices, but it's a little more involved than your just regular HeroQuest thing. But yeah, a lot of people have nostalgia for this. I remember in school, like, people would be like copying this. They'd be like drawing it, looking at it and drawing it. That's Lone Wolf. Gotta love that guy. But yeah, but it would progress, and you're fighting the Dark Lords. You're trying to find this artifact called the Summer Sword, which is the only thing that can destroy the Dark Lords. Kind of reminds you of the Spirit Blade, the Excalibur of this world. So yeah, Lone Wolf is really cool, and I would love to do a stream where we just talk about Lone Wolf, because I have a lot of nostalgia for the series. Now, there was a problem. These books are originally published in the UK, because that's where Warhammer and everything started. And as you get into the later books, when they were released in North America, they were abridged. And when they abridge the stories, like, sometimes like it doesn't quite make sense, and there's even errors. There's some books that you can't even complete them correctly, because you'll go somewhere and it's like, wait a minute, there's no choice there, or there's a loop, or it doesn't quite make sense. So you'd have to actually, if you were trying to play it right, you'd have to track down the original versions. And if you're living outside the UK, they may be really rare or expensive or just out of reach. I think between my brother and I, we own the entire American series, except for the very last volume. I mean, I don't know. I think they've restarted these books, and they've actually rewritten, changed the plot. Like, they retconned some stuff in this, so I am very nostalgic about the original, so I would prefer to keep that in there. And I want to say, I think the pages were ripped out in this edition that I've got, because there's like a combat chart where it keeps track of the monsters you're fighting, and it shows like the 2 severed heads of the monsters you're fighting, and you're supposed to write on it in pencil or photocopy it. But I think the previous owner of this book actually took those pages out, so they're gone. But I have other copies, other books in the series. This is book 1, Flight from the Dark, and you can photocopy those and just use them instead. It's much easier. But yeah, the last book is just way too expensive. I want to say it's like $200 for just a paperback. And you know what? I've got enough of the series. Now, there was something online called Project Aeon, AON, and it was actually approved by, at the time when he was still living, Joe Deaver and Gary Chalk. They were just like, sure, yeah, we don't care. Go ahead, release our books, and unabridged. And you're actually playing it in your browser, or you could download it and just play it off of a little app on your computer, and you can play through the game. The only thing is they didn't have permission for all the artwork, so I guess Gary Chalk, or the company that owns his artwork, did not approve the artwork at first. I'm not sure how it is now, but at the time, people just made their own like replacement artwork. So you had like fan art instead to go with it. But it was really cool that they did that. Again, just like Dave Morris, like releasing the novels for free. It's like, yeah, it's cool to own this, but if you're just maybe more of a casual fan, or you don't have the money or the time to track down a vintage, copy of this, you can just play it on your browser, play a scan of it. What else? So these, once again, this was stuff that I didn't have as a kid, but it came out later. So Star Wars, official Star Wars. These are Bantam books. So we've got holograms on here. Woo! Cool holograms. Of Choose Your Own Adventure, official Choose Your Own Adventure Star Wars books. Now, I dreamed about this when I was a kid. I dreamed like, what would a Star Wars Choose Your Own Adventure look like? And like, you're Luke Skywalker and you get killed, and it's like, oh man, the movie's over. So, but this is clearly written for like younger kids, so it's a little bit more simple. You're making choices. If you help Chewbacca convince Han to turn around, if you think you should keep going, you know, you don't have to keep track of a lot of stats or anything. But, you know, there's different events outside of the movies, how things could have been different. Let's see, these were written obviously not at the time of Star Wars. This is 1998, so back when Star Wars was becoming big again with the special editions. So we've got Return of the Jedi. We've got Empire Strikes Back. So I had to get these. I had to just check them out, see what they're like. Now, if you want something a little more sophisticated, West End Games released these, and these were harder to find. They were more expensive. Solitaire Adventures. So Star Wars RPG in the late 80s was made by West End Games before Wizards of the Coast. And this is not the Star Wars RPG, so you don't need any miniatures or anything for this. This is like a choose your own adventure book, but it's just a little more sophisticated. But I mean, you don't have to keep track of stats or equipment. So there you've got your choices in there in these little sections. And the fact that they have these paragraphs instead of just a page number makes it a little harder to cheat. Like you accidentally see the page and, oh, that's a bad ending, don't do that one. But here you are, Scoundrel's Luck. So this is like the Han Solo style adventure. Except you're not Han Solo, you're just another character. You're you, yourself in the world. So there's that. And then this one, as you can see, it came in the wrapper. This is Jedi's Honor. So this is like your Jedi adventure, starring Luke Skywalker. Let's see, I can just slide this out of the plastic here. This is kind of a big deal. So again, West End Games. It's almost like an RPG book, except it's soft cover. But what year was it written? 1990. So again, special edition era. Well, Luke's in trouble. So yeah, we could read any of these. So we've got lots of choices, I guess. We could take an hour or two. What would people like us to read? So let's see. Do we have 6 choices? Let's see. We could have Lone Wolf. Let's not do Way of the Tiger today because that's pretty intense. This is our first one, especially if there happen to be any kids. Hey, kids, get your parents' permission before you listen to this. So option 1 will be. Maybe I could do a poll. This would be easier to do a poll. Suggested a poll. Oh, that doesn't tell what it is. I don't do these every time. I think there's a moderator poll. Okay, let's just do it this way. So, guys, anybody listening to the sound of my voice, if you are on twitch.tv/HeroQuest fans, go ahead and use your gold coins. That is your channel points. Now, if you're on YouTube, you won't be able to do this. Vote on your options. So, option 1, Lone Wolf. Option 2, Dungeons and Dragons. Option 3, Wizards, Warriors, and you. Option 4. I don't know if a time machine is really going to work for this. Let's say option 4 would be Narnia. Option 5, Star Wars. Let's say Star Wars Trilogy. Option 6, Star Wars West End Games. please vote now using your channel points, or verbally say or type your pick, your choice. Now, if people don't choose, I'm just going to pick something. And I realize there is a bit of a delay, but let's go ahead and get our countdown timer. Just got to get the old countdown timer again here. All right, so vote now. I'll give you guys a few minutes to try to influence my decision, and we'll see what we should read today for a game book. So I'm going to pick a game book, and we're going to read it for a while, and then tomorrow we will do an actual Hero Quest Twitch stream. I thought about doing Space Crusade. I know there's some people that want to play Space Crusade, but the problem is we're just getting back after 3 weeks hiatus, and I don't think we're quite ready to do that yet. And I know it's a newer game that people don't necessarily are not as necessarily as familiar with. I mean, it's different than Space Hulk. It's different than Hero Quest. I mean, it's in that same era, and it's not that different. But there's a little bit of a learning curve. So I will have to teach you guys how to play. And let's be honest, it's not as popular as Hero Quest. So maybe let's do that another time. But think about it. If you want to play Space Crusade, I would love to play with some people, some like-minded people on stream. But for now, go ahead and vote for your vote for the game book that you want to listen to today. So once again, option 1 is Lone Wolf. So option 1 is Lone Wolf. So that's the game book with dice and combat skill and all that stuff. Option 2 is Dungeons and Dragons. It's this just this basic choose your own adventure book. It's a little simpler. Option 3, Wizards, Warriors, and You. So we get to pick the wizard or the warrior and have an adventure, so you've got equipment. That's a little bit more complex. Option 4, Narnia. This one's fairly involved. You've got a lot to keep track of. You got dice and stuff. So that's a little more involved. And these are ones I'm less familiar with, but it'd be really cool to try those out. And we can do more of this on a future stream, because, I mean, I own these books. They're just sitting on my bookshelf, just waiting to be played. Option 5 would be the Star Wars trilogy. So these, like young adult novel, choose your own adventure style books with not a lot of other stuff to keep track of. I think for now we're going to skip Time Machine and we're going to skip Way of the Tiger. But then option 6 would be like the West End Games, Star Wars choose your own adventure books. And when I say choose your own adventure, I mean I'm just using the generic term that everybody thinks of with these. So we just got a couple more minutes here. People decide. Any thoughts? And if we don't get through the book this time, I mean, we can always pick it up next time, next Friday. Because on Friday I like to do something else other than just talk Hero Quest news, because sometimes there isn't much. I mean, we know that December is when the Rogue Heir of Elethorn gets released, that Hero Collection 2 is going to be retail with finally. And we know that in spring 2023 is when the remake of the ElfQuest pack Mage of the Mirror comes out. And at that point, they'll have completed their goal of remaking all the North American quest packs expansions. And the question will be, well, what's next for the franchise? I'd love to see Wizards of Morkar against the Ogre Horde, even though I just bought the classic versions. A really cool guy on Board Games Geek gave those to me. And I even found like a quest that he made in his European first edition of the game. I would love to see those remade. And Advanced Hero Quest, I'd love to see that come back. but we'll see what happens. I mean, for all we know, after the ElfQuest pack, maybe people will be tired of it. Maybe their nostalgia fix will be done and there won't be any more new stuff. But as long as they keep the game, the base game, and Keller's Keep Return of the Witch Lord on store shelves, I think that'll be the minimum that I would want. But I would also want those other things not to become rare scalper items. They would just be available. They don't have to keep releasing stuff. But yeah, other than that, there isn't much in the world of HeroQuest these days. It's just the fans do like what they've always done and just release new stuff. Okay, Ribby says let the GM decide. Well, at this point, I mean, the timer's counting down, so I'm fine with that. What am I in the mood for? I guess I still kind of want to keep in the spirit of the fantasy adventure type stuff. So I'm tending to do that instead of like the sci-fi stuff. I mean, people say, oh, Star Wars is not science fiction, it's space fantasy. What's the difference? Or they say, well, it's not hard sci-fi like Star Trek. It's like, yeah, Star Trek has a lot of fantasy stuff in it, to be honest with you. I don't know. I think Narnia, I mean, I really want to play these. But this is probably going to require more paper, maybe some photocopies and stuff, because I don't want to beat these books up any more than they already are. So maybe we'll save these for another time. Like I said, Time Machine, a lot more reading. My voice is going to go out. But I would like to do these sometime. And these are fun. These are a lot of fun. And I'm still on the lookout for more of these Time Machine books, because there's a lot of them, and some of them are really hard to find. Way of the Tiger, I mean, that's going to be a MA13 stream, because it's really gruesome and nasty. But it's cool as well. Star Wars, I mean, this is pretty simple. Is Strange Bus with us? He might appreciate the Star Wars one, because he's a bigger Star Wars fan even than I am, I would say. Welcome, Valentiel Karaz. So we're talking game books today. Yeah, we're talking game books, and let me just see. If Strange Bus is here, I'm tempted to do Star Wars in his honor. Alright, just got a nice message from Incarmine there. Yeah, I hope we weren't too hard on you guys on the Rantcast. I just want to say something about that. So in the Rantcast, we get really animated. And the thing is, like, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody and saying, you're the shill media. You can't do that. But I just want to stay true to myself, okay? Like, I know that as a fan of stuff, like, I'm just going to speak my mind. And I've gotten to the point where I'm not going to... Like, if you're a fan and you're passionate about the same thing I'm passionate about, but you have a totally different take on it, I'm not going to trash you and say that you're a bad person or you're not a real fan. Now, if you insult me and attack me and threaten me, yeah, I am going to take that personally. But for the most part, like, there's people out there that say, oh, Star Wars is this, and I disagree. It's like, you know, agree to disagree. That's fine. You know, a new show comes out and some people love it, other people hate it. Like, I think there's room in a franchise community, fan community for that. I don't feel like the official story from the corporation is what determines what I like. So I like Incarmine. I think he's been a cool guy. But I mean, if he like attacked the fans, which he has not, okay? He has never attacked the fans. But if he was one of these media guys, unfortunately a lot of franchises have, if he were attacking the fans, I wouldn't take his side just because he's part of the company. I would take the fan side. Like, that's how I am. I automatically see, like, the little guy. I give him the benefit of the doubt, the underdog. That's just naturally how I am. And it's true. Fans can go too far sometimes. Like, they always do this. They say, well, you know, this actor got death threats because people didn't like his performance. It's like, are you nuts? Why would you do that? But I also see it as, I feel like sometimes... If you are part of a project that is failing or not doing that great, people get really defensive, and they will take like one crazy person on the internet or one bad comment, and they'll blanket the whole thing and blame all the fans for what that one person said, that tiny minority of people, and they'll pretend like that's an excuse, so now you can't criticize it. Like, I hate that. So if Avalon Hill or Hasbro ever did that, I would turn against them like that. But right now, I feel like they've been very fair in their public persona with us. I think they've been really cool, and I hope that continues. I like the relationship we have now. So I guess the only reason I'm so paranoid about it is because I've heard about it happening in these other franchises, in Star Wars, in Lord of the Rings, where the company that's in charge of the product is too defensive, they're too accusatory, they seem too willing to like stir up fans, put up fake reviews, fake ratings, manipulate, and just do psychological warfare. I hate to use the term gaslighting, but you know, people always throw that out. But like, they just mess with the fans, and that's not cool. And yeah, you've got trolls online and stuff like that, but I hate all that drama. It's like, why can't we just like or dislike the product based on the quality? Like, why do you got to play with people's emotions or try to shame them? So I just want to say, like, I was not putting any of that on Hasbro. I'm just saying, please, please, please stay cool. Don't go down that route that unfortunately some of these other big companies have gone down. Because really, like, if you're an actor, like, you've got a job to do, you've got, you know, bills to pay. If you put in the work, you get paid, that's great. If you put in a bad performance, I mean, that's a shame. But at the same time, like, I will blame the director and the writer first before I would blame the actor. And if they do a character that's annoying, like, I'm not going to blame the person that played that character. I mean, who knows why they took the job or how it was edited or whatever. But they just did what, you know, it's not their fault how the character was written. So, yeah, like, I hate the character of Jar Jar Binks. But I don't blame Ahmed Best, the actor who played him. Like, I mean, I think it's sad, like, what happened in his life, or, like, the kid who played Anakin in Episode 1, I mean, Jake Lloyd. Like, it is what it is. But, I mean, if the director or the writer or the CEO of some company makes some political statement that I think is completely, like, I disagree with it, I'm going to set that aside. Like, unless you're smacking me in the face with that in your fiction, I don't care. Like, just set it aside. It's like, look, I don't like your politics, but your art is awesome. Just like how you could have a song, like, this is a great song, but I don't agree with the lyrics, you know? You can separate the art from the artist. Sometimes it's harder to do that. Like, if they're a real scumbag, it's like, you know what, I don't want people to think that I approve of this person's behavior. But I think a lot can be forgiven. So if some actor in their personal life is just a complete jerk, if they're saying stupid stuff online, I can set that aside. If the art is good, because it's like, I like Luke Skywalker. I don't know about Mark Hamill, but I like Luke Skywalker. And if he's a good character, I like the character. So I think with HeroQuest, it kind of doesn't, in a way, it doesn't matter what Hasbro does. Sorry to get off on a rant and soapbox here, but it kind of doesn't matter what Hasbro or Avalon Hill does right now, because I'm such a HeroQuest fan. If I don't like the new product, I've got the old product. Just like Star Wars. If they start making really bad Star Wars stuff, well, they've been doing bad Star Wars stuff for a while, but if it's just so bad that I don't buy the product anymore, guess what? I've still got the old product. But if people ask me, are you a fan of Star Wars? I'm going to say, yeah, but, and I'm going to say, I like the old stuff. And it's not, oh, you're just an old, you know, nostalgic fuddy-duddy. Well, it's because the new stuff is a mixed bag. But at the same time, if you're a company, I think it's in your best interest to treat your fans with respect. Give them what they want. Know your audience. All of that is just really important, because if you don't do that, a lot of people are not going to want to try it out. It's like, hey, buy my product. By the way, I hate you. It's like, what? No. So I think so far Hasbro's done a good job. So I don't want people to take my words the wrong way from the Rantcast. I was trying to be fair. I was trying to walk that line between the things that I'm concerned about, the things that I'm disappointed in, but then also the things I'm hopeful about and the things that I appreciate. So keep doing what you're doing. I think we'll have a great ride together. All right. Speaking of Star Wars, oh man, it's a toss-up. It's either, okay, guys, you're gonna need to help me out. I'm sorry. I'm thinking either Wizards, Warriors, and You or Star Wars for today. So I would say option 1, Wizards, Warriors, and You. Option 2, Star Wars. Sorry, I don't mean to take up everybody's time. You know what? I'm just going to decide. Like Ribby said. Okay, let's do, how about this? Let's do a little Wizards, Warriors, and You, and if we've got time, let's do a Star Wars. Yeah, that's how we'll do it. Okay, so let's see. Let's do the Siege of the Dragon Riders. Okay, Wizards, Warriors, and You. Book 2. Alright, Wizards, Warriors, and You is a game of fantasy role-playing as well as a book. In each adventure, you will choose to play the game as either the wizard or the warrior. Wearing the wizard's robes, you will summon up magical spells to fend off your enemies. Carrying the warrior's sword, you will use your strength and brilliance in battle to prevail against all challengers. There are dozens of adventures in this book. If you choose to play the role of the wizard, all the mysterious spells in the Book of Spells at the back of the book will be at your command. Use them to guide the wizard past peril after peril. Then close the book and start all over again. This time as the warrior. Try your skill with all the weapons listed in the Book of Weapons. Also found at the back of this book. No matter which role you choose to play, you will choose new adventures, battle surprising foes, and make life or death decisions on every page. So, classic stuff there. Strange Bus. Hey man, sorry, still working. Hope you have a good stream. Hey, that's great. And Strange Bus, I always like the fact that we can do our stream and like we can kind of, you know, enhance and bring out the discussion, each of us. And I think that's why on the Rantcast you really need 2 people. So I'm sorry that I was gone, but it was great to be back. And thanks for having me on the show. Everybody go check out the Strange Bus on twitch.tv and also on YouTube. Good stuff. Okay, so we're doing Wizards, Warriors, and You. Now the question is, do we want the wizard or the warrior? All right, I'm going to read the introduction and you guys decide. Yeah, stop blaming the actors and actresses. Well, the thing is, I'm just going to say one more thing about this because I don't want this to be Rantcast Part 2. You have certain actors who are like big time, like multimillionaires. They're in the public eye. You know, they're the top paid people in the industry. Those people have a lot of clout, a lot of power, like top celebrities. But then you get your like lower tier, like first time, you know, lesser known actors. They don't have as much creative freedom with their public persona. I mean, I'm sure they have to sign contracts, like what they can say and not say in social media or in interviews. Like, I put more pressure on those big actors. Like, if they say something really, like, nasty or stupid or they're involved in a scandal, like, I put that more on them. Plus, it's like they have so much more money. Like, don't they have advisors or people who can be like, hey, don't do that. Don't say that. You know, the smaller time actors, like Ahmed Best, you could say, like, he wasn't a big time guy. But somebody like Harrison Ford. Like, if Harrison Ford, like, gave his fans the middle finger and, you know, whatever, trashed somebody, it'd be like, okay, he's more in control of his actions as a celebrity than like somebody low tier, somebody lesser well known. And at the same time, these corporations, I mean, these contracts, like they'll lose millions of dollars if they say or do the wrong thing. So they're walking on eggshells. So in a sense, if they come out and say some like politically inflammatory thing, most of the time, I don't even believe that's their real belief. Like, I think the company told them to say that, or they're feeling pressured, like peer pressure to say that just to get along. Like, it's the company's policy. And listen, anybody who's listening to me who works for a big corporation knows this. They may not tell you this is what you have to believe, like politically or religiously, philosophically, financially, whatever. But there's a lot of pressure to either agree with the company line publicly or just keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. Like, there's a lot of pressure to do that. And if ordinary people like us feel that, I'm sure it's the same whether you're an actor, athlete, you know, whatever. So, in a sense, I don't blame them 100% for stuff they say. They may not believe it themselves, but they're just saying it because they think that's what they need to say to, like, keep their career alive. And if they step outside of that, it's like I have a little bit of respect for it. It's like, okay, they're saying what they want as opposed to what they're being forced to say. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, don't be stupid. Like, keep your job. Of course, if you're like, I'm quitting anyway, I don't care. I'm just going to say what I really think. It's like there's a little bit of respect there, even if I disagree with them. So, all that aside. But yeah, some people online are nuts. And I think if you're a celebrity, you have to insulate yourself from that a little bit and just like, don't put all your life and like self-worth and value based on what people online say, especially on Twitter. I mean, there's tons of trolls, there's tons of bots, as we know. It's just, yeah. But at the same time, I think it's a clever like excuse or shield that companies use. Like, oh, I got death threats online, so therefore everything I say is awesome and I must be like a perfect like actor and the art must be above criticism. It's like not true. I mean, I've gotten death threats online. Does that mean everything I say is correct? No. Does that mean I can't make mistakes? No. Does that mean I can't be stupid? No. But yeah, don't threaten people's lives online. And the thing is, if you're the kind of person that does that, me telling you not to do it is probably not going to make any difference. Because why would you care? You don't have that self-control or whatever. So anyway, yeah, let's back to the game because it's all about the games and the fun, not about that stuff. But yeah, I would blame the CEOs, the directors, the writers, the producers first. And I would take the actors as like the last people to blame if something sucks. And if they want to spout off independently of the show, that doesn't change the show's quality. All right, so we're back to Wizards, Warriors, and You. Yeah, that Raincast was a lot of fun, just getting back into it. But just get it all out of the system. Now we're reading books. All right, The Siege of the Dragon Riders. Introduction. I hope everybody can hear me well enough. I got my music going. Royalty-free music. Awesome stuff. Past the pale stone castle where King Henry rules. Past the green courtyard where Henry's knights train and meet in the competition of the joust. Past the meadows where the king's cows graze. Past the vineyards where the king's wine is pressed. Past the marketplace. Past the village inns. Past the farms, several hundred yards beyond the low brick wall that forms the very boundary of the royal domain, stands a large, flat rock. This large, flat rock is bounded by a steep, jagged cliff on one side, and the rolling purple ocean on the other. It is on this flat rock that the wizard and the warrior meet to remember adventures of the past and to talk of adventures to come, yet to come. They have much to talk about. Together, this team of legend, this master of magical forces, and this champion of the lightning sword have defeated evil in this world and in the worlds beyond. They have triumphed over untold foes in castles and courtyards. This is only book 2. And in the mountains and forests that surround the medieval world. The challenges of this world are many, for there are always those, human and non-human, who would destroy the wizard and the warrior and the world they protect. In this book you will enter the unpredictable world of the wizard and the warrior. You will enter the world and you will become part of it. You'll make the right decisions. If you make the right decisions, the wizard and the warrior will succeed in their quest, and their legend will live on. If you make the wrong choices, their bright legend will dim. You will find yourself trapped in a world of unimaginable horrors. The journey into the world of Wizards and Warriors and You begins on page 1. Okay, so again, we're world building here. So let me just make a little note. So we are reading Wizards, Warriors, and You, Book 2, Siege of the Dragon Riders. And yeah, this is not Hero Quest, but I feel like people who like Hero Quest can appreciate something like this. And this is from Avon Fiction from 1984, Parachute Press. Alright, we continue reading. Let it be known that the amazing tale of all that came to pass for the wizard and the warrior in their battle against the dragon riders is true. Oh, that was... yeah. The adventure began on a cloudy autumn day, in the 10th year of the reign of King Henry, in the meadow outside the walls of Silvergate, his castle. The wind blew cool across the tall grass of the meadow as the wizard and the warrior stepped forward to join the rest of King Henry's subjects. It was the day before the harvest. I'll just put these books out just for background. It was the day before the harvest, a day of solemn prayers followed by celebration. As the chanting of the priest floated on the wind, a cloud spread its darkness over the sun, and a chill covered the crowded meadow. A rain today would surely slow the harvest, the wizard said quietly to his companion, his eyes surveying the sky. But we have much to be thankful for, the warrior answered, ignoring the cold wind that blew against his ceremonial armor. The crops are plentiful this year. No one will go hungry. The wizard looked toward the large barrels of wine carried to the meadow for the day-long celebration that would follow the priest's blessings. And I believe that no one will go thirsty either, he said, a smile crossing his usually serious face. The priest finished his melodious prayers and stepped back. King Henry stepped forward to speak his official pronouncement of the harvest. He raised his hands as greeting to his subjects. But he didn't get to say a word. The dark clouds suddenly turned darker, and the wind picked up. The clouds began to swirl about, gray upon gray, black upon black, twisting, undulating, faster and faster. All eyes were on the sky now. What storm was this, and that threatened to interrupt the celebration? Look! Someone rides the clouds! A farmer yelled, his arm tightening around the shoulder of his frightened wife. Figures appeared in the swirling, twisting clouds. Giant figures that resembled men, then monsters, then men astride monsters. What monsters are these? The warrior cried, reaching for the sword of the golden lion, which was always at his side. Closer, the giant figures loomed, shadows against the shadowy clouds. The sky rumbled. The rumble became a roar that shook the meadowland. Dragons! Several terrified people screamed at once. The sky above the kingdom was darkened now, not by clouds, but by an army of gigantic winged dragons. On each flying beast rode a warrior in black armor, carrying a spear of black. Warriors who ride atop dragons, the wizard cried. Is this magic? Has some evil sorcerer bewitched my eyes? His question was answered quickly. The dragons and their fierce riders were real. Got to show you the illustration. Just imagine being a 8-year-old kid and going, yeah, now it's on. The dragons landed in the farmland that stretched beyond the meadow and roared a menacing greeting. As King Henry and his subjects watched in horror and fright, the giant beasts trampled the ripe crops. Urged on by the warriors who rode them, as if they were horses, they smashed and burned the wheat, barley, and the vegetables that had been grown with such care. All were flattened beneath their deliberate footsteps, then turned to ash by their fiery breath. The king's warriors stood frozen in amazement, as this army of monsters and men destroyed all the crops of the northern lands. We shall return, a warrior's voice called from atop a heaving, hissing dragon. This kingdom and all kingdoms shall be ours. The dragon riders turned their beasts, 200 beasts at least, treading once again over the crops that had already been destroyed. Slowly, arrogantly, keeping to the ground, daring the king's men to follow, they rode off toward the forests beyond the farmlands. King Henry's grief-stricken subjects returned in silence to their homes, thinking of the long, hungry winter they soon were to face. The meadow stood empty, the wine barrels lying alone, unattended under the dark sky. Soon after, the wizard and the warrior were summoned to the king's chamber. Men who can tame winged dragons and ride them to battle, the king exclaimed sadly, shaking his head. I have never seen or heard such a thing in all my journeys. If the dragons can be tamed by men, they can be tamed by us, the warrior said firmly. Once the dragons have been defeated, the dragon riders can be beaten as well, the wizard nodded in agreement. I must rely on you, the king said. If the crops of the Southlands are also destroyed, none of us will survive the winter. You must follow these dragon riders. You must learn their secrets, and in learning their secrets, discover a way to destroy them. This must be done before they can attack again. Excellency? Excellency, said the warrior, we will not fail you. Thus, the tale begins. The story now becomes your story. The mission becomes your mission. The time has come for you to choose the role you will play. Will you take the part of the wizard or the warrior? Make your choice. All right, so I'm going to allow the chat to influence the decision. So vote now with your channel points. If you're on Twitch here. Option 1, wizard. Option 2, warrior. That's option 1 wizard, option 2 warrior. Please vote now. Please vote now in the Twitch chat. Thank you. Let's get the timer going here. So yeah, in the Twitch chat, you can, where it says send a message, over in the lower left-hand side, if you go down to below it where it says send a message, there's a little treasure symbol, gold. Click on that, and it'll say HeroQuest fans rewards and challenges. And then you can choose option 1 for 1 gold coin or option 2 for 1 gold coin. If you're not able to do that, you can just say verbally if you're in the Quest Talk chat room in Discord, or you can just verbally type out your answer in the chat. I guess we're not needing to roll dice this time, but yeah. All right, anybody? I may just have to do a roll. I know we haven't done one of these in a while, so we're kind of having to get back in the swing of things. But if you're just listening, I know people sign on just to paint their miniatures or do dishes or relax or whatever while they're listening to us, and you guys don't, I can't force you to interact. But eventually I will just pick a choice. Let the GM decide, maybe. That's a choice too. So we're just picking our role. All right, so I think we've had a few minutes to decide, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pick. I think we'll just roll a die here. If we get 1 through 3, it's the wizard. If we get 4 through 6, then it's going to be the warrior. Where's my timer here? Okay, so 1 through 3 wizard, 4 through 6 warrior. Okay, so we got a 5. So we're gonna do the warrior. The warrior! Don't worry, there'll be another time to do the wizard. Okay. So we picked the warrior. Turn to page 17. Again, this is Wizards, Warriors, and You. Instructions for the warrior. You are the warrior. I feel like I'm yelling a little bit. I'm just going to turn this music down just a tad, even though it's awesome. Okay. You are the warrior. You have wisdom as well as might. So you realize that your boasts to the king were not... Your wisdom as well as... You have wisdom as well as might. So you realize that your boasts to the king were mere words. To defeat a huge army of winged dragons, and the warriors who have tamed them will require more than words. It will require all of your skills as the warrior. At the back of this book, on page 101, you will find a book describing all the weapons you possess. Turn now to the Book of Weapons. You may take only 3 of these weapons along with you, in addition to the Sword of the Golden Lion, which they show there. Awesome sword. The Sword of the Golden Lion, which is always with you. Choose carefully. Decide which 3 weapons you will take. Turn to page 8 to begin your hunt for the evil dragon riders. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write down. So we've got warrior. So sword of the golden lion. We've got 2 more weapons we can choose. So if anybody has any suggestions, I kind of already am thinking about what I want to pick. Now, I have not read this book before. If I ever read it, it would have been like in the 80s when I was a little kid. But let me just see here. Some of these weapons I remember, but each book it's different. You may not run into an opportunity to use everything. So Book of Weapons, for use only by the warrior. Okay, so we got the Sword of the Golden Lion. I'm going to go ahead and read the description to you. This is one that we definitely have. An immortal sword that cannot be broken. The Sword of the Golden Lion was forged by the same swordsmith who forged the legendary Excalibur. The scabbard carries the inscription Forever, and a lion is etched in gold on the blade itself. You won the sword after a battle to the death against Lancashire sorcerer, and has been at your side ever since. You carry the Sword of the Golden Lion at all times. In addition, you may choose from the following list 3 other weapons to accompany you. Oh, I'm sorry. So you have 4 weapons total. Excuse me. 3 other weapons. So here are our choices. We've got a battle axe, triple crossbow, lance, morning star, longbow with poison-tipped arrows, flail, double-pointed mace, devil's dagger. I'm just thinking, if we're fighting dragon riders, guys on armored men riding dragons, this is going to be really tough. So let's read through the descriptions of the weapons, and we'll pick. So weapon 2 is battle axe. A favorite weapon of King Henry himself, the battle axe can be used when there is little room to wield a sword. With a head that weighs 20 pounds, the weight and the sharpness of its cutting edge make it a valued weapon for the knight who's strong enough to use it. Well, that might be cool to cut off a dragon's head. Triple crossbow. Designed especially for you by the wizard. This crossbow has a span of 3 feet. It can propel 3 arrows at once in 3 different directions. This makes it especially useful in those situations where the warrior fights alone against many. Okay, I'm already deciding that the triple crossbow is good, unless we change our minds. So triple crossbow, Sword of the Golden Lion, we got 2 more slots. Lance. The 8-foot lance is an excellent weapon for battles on horseback. Of course, the question is, how often are we going to be on horseback against flying dragons? Of course, the dragons probably have to land. Of course, I guess they could fight us in the air. It is usually the weapon knights turn to when their sword has failed them. The major drawback to the lance is the fact that it can be broken. Morning Star. This weapon is guaranteed to leave its mark on a victim's memory. Sharp spikes jut out of a wooden ball, which is attached by a chain to a long wooden handle. The weapon isn't effective against armor, but it is an excellent choice for inflicting head wounds. Longbow with poison-tipped arrows. A simple weapon, except that the poison tips were prepared especially by the wizard. Their potency never weakens, no matter how many victims the arrows claim. So we already have 1 ranged weapon, but I don't know, longbow might be good. You take down a big dragon with poison arrows. Flail, used for whipping or choking. This is largely a weapon for desperate situations. It consists of a short wooden stick attached to a long cord. Attached by a long cord to a long wooden handle. The major benefit of this weapon is that it is light and easier to carry than most weapons. I don't know. Flail. Double-pointed mace. A long mace with 2 sharp points on the head. This weapon can be slung by a loop on the wrist and used as a club or a spear or as a deadly lance. Many have wondered about the history of this, the only double-pointed mace in the kingdom, but you have refused to reveal its origin. The Devil's Dagger. This dagger resembles a small sword except that the blade is shorter and thinner. The dagger is worn on the opposite side of the sword and is usually used to deliver a death blow to someone who has already fallen. Your dagger is called the Devil's Dagger because of your superhuman skill at using it. I'm thinking I'm thinking like trying to think in logical terms here, but the game may or may not follow that. I'm thinking the double-pointed mace. So let's choose that as weapon 3. Double pointed mace. Good against armored opponents. And then the last one, I mean, it's tempting to say the lance, but I'm not sure. I'm probably going to say the battle axe. I mean, the devil's dagger, I mean, it seems logical for a knight to have a dagger. Finish off an opponent, but so you've got big weapons. I'm going to say the battle axe. That was my initial thought. Okay, so to summarize, we've got the Sword of the Golden Lion, the triple crossbow, the double-pointed mace, and the battle axe. So sword, crossbow, mace, axe. All right, that should do it. Turn to page 8 to begin your hunt for the evil dragon riders. We won't have as much prep time next time, just because we'll know what we're doing next Friday if we do this again, which I hope we do. You do not sleep well the night before you and the wizard are to begin your mission. You pace the floor of your chamber, your mind unable to cast away the picture of the dragon riders and their cruel attack. Morning finally arrives, damp and cold. You and the wizard mount your horses in silence. The harvest of the Southlands has begun. As you and your companion ride by the fields, farmers drop their scythes to greet you and wish you well. Their words of hope are a sharp contrast to their frightened faces. When you reach the gate that leads out of the kingdom, the wizard finally breaks the silence. I will never forget the sight of those monstrous creatures dropping down onto our land from the skies, he says sadly. It is possible that is only the beginning of the horrors you will witness, you say grimly, because you're the warrior. Your horse edges back toward the gate, reluctant to leave the safety of the kingdom. So yeah, just keep in mind the two are friends, so whichever one you pick, the other one is still your companion. You realize that you must now come up with a strategy. At least the trail will not be hard to follow, the wizard says, pointing to the wide path of destruction, the deep ruts in the earth, the singed grassland left by the departing dragons. I'm not so certain we wish to follow the path they have made, you say thoughtfully. We have no other path to follow, the wizard says, no other guide. There is one other, you say. There is Jabara. The wizard pulls his horse up short and turns to you with a wild look in his eyes. Has the sight of those dragon riders dislodged your mind? Why would anyone seek out Jabara, who has no cause to? Or, sorry, I can't read for some reason. Okay, why would anyone seek out Jabara, who has no cause to? Jabara is a dragon like those who attacked us, an aged dragon, but still deadly. This path may end before leading us to the Dragon Rider's kingdom, you argue. It is likely that the dragons took to the sky. They will have left no path for us to follow in the sky. But to seek out Jabara in this cave is to... Jabara is the only creature who can tell us from where these dragons and their masters come. You interrupt. Jabara deals with the world of evil. Jabara is evil, the wizard cries, and his evil is old enough to challenge my magic with success. But Jabara is old and tired, you insist. He may not wish to rouse himself to challenge my sword. It is an unnecessary risk to take, the wizard says. I beg you to follow this path. Surely it will lead us to our enemy. You must decide, do you choose to pay a visit to Jabara, the ancient dragon, or to follow the trail the dragon riders have left? Okay, so we've got option 1, face Jabara. Option 2, follow the trail. I don't know. I'm feeling brave. I'm thinking, hey, we're ready to go. I don't know what... Well, I guess the wizard has all of his magic. But he's thinking this dragon may kill us. At the same time, why would Jabara want to help us? Is he loyal to his fellow dragons or not? We don't know. But he could certainly tell us information. So if anybody wants to influence the decision, option 1, visit Jabara the dragon. Option 2, try to pick up the trail of these dragon riders. On the other hand, there was a lot of them. They left that path of destruction. But if they're flying, kind of hard to follow them, wouldn't it? I'm thinking option 1. I'm thinking Jabara. And if we get killed, we can just start over. I mean, the wizard's pretty wise, but... don't know. Okay, page 26. We're going to choose. We're going to visit Jabara. Jabara, the ancient dragon, has not left his cave in more than 100 years. The wise old creature lives in a hill of dark caves, connected by even darker tunnels. A labyrinth of safety, for few have dared to enter these caves. Even fewer have come out again. Uh-oh. You're willing to risk a confrontation with the dragon because you are certain Jabara will be able to guide you to the dragon riders. But to confront Jabara, you must first find him. As you approach the hill of Jabara's labyrinth, you see that there are 4 caves. You must guess which cave will lead you to Jabara. At the entrance to Cave 1, you see what appears to be a large serpent acting as guard. Cave 2 appears to be empty, but of course, you cannot know if it is truly empty without entering. Cave number 3 also appears to be empty. Cave 4 seems to have some sort of white covering draped over the entranceway. Is this because Jabara is inside? Which cave do you choose to enter? I mean, a guardian serpent would be our first challenge. At the same time, why would he put a serpent there if it wasn't a reason to guard it? So there's the illustration. So you've got Cave 1, Option 1. Cave 2, Option 2. Cave 3, Option 3. Cave 4 with the cloth, Option 4. Here's our 2 heroes. It could be a fake out. I mean, I'm thinking the one with the serpent. And we've got a triple crossbow. We could shoot him. Let's see. The cloth. I mean, it's ripped and tattered. I'm thinking it's one of those 2. Of course, it could be one of the empty ones. 3, 4. I'm just really not sure. Anybody have any ideas? Do we want to try one of the 2 empty caves? Or do we want to try the one with the serpent or the one with the cloth? Now, I do have a 4-sided die I can just roll and just pick a random thing. Maybe I'll do that. Alright, so we'll just go straight up. So this is D&D type die. 4-sided, it's weird. Let's see. So it'll correspond just to the options. So let's go ahead and roll. 4. Option 4. So we'll go for the one with the white cloth. See if that was right or not. Go to page 50. Oh, wow. You and your companion dismount from your faithful horses and approach the 4th cave in the Dragon's Hill. There appears to be a doorway of sorts, the wizard says. It is likely that Jabara has made this protected cave his home. Slowly, carefully, you reach for the doorway, which is built of a sticky white substance. Uh-oh. Your hand grips the soft edge of the door and prepares to pull it open. But before you can pull, the doorway bursts forward, pushed by a powerful force, a swarm of gigantic hornets. You have invaded their nest. The angry buzz deafens your ears. 2 of the giant insects knock over the wizard and prepare to give him a deadly sting. You reach for the sword of the golden lion, but it is tossed from your hand by the furious swipe of a wing from one of the enraged hornets. 2 of the creatures fly into you at once and send you sprawling to the hard ground. You realize that one sting from one of these monstrous winged insects will be enough to end your days. Can you fight them off? Okay, so there's the illustration. But I'm wearing armor. Of course, maybe they can pierce armor. Looks like I've got plate armor with some chainmail. Okay. If you have chosen to bring weapon number 2, the battle axe, or the morning star, or the flail, turn to page 60. Of course, I do have the battle axe. If you did not choose one of these weapons, ouch, the hornet's sting, you just sent deadly venom coursing through your body. You have only enough time left to realize this is the end. Okay. So we didn't die. We've got the battle axe. Let's go to page 60. That was a good choice. Alright, page 60. The hornets, as big as vultures, swarm around you and your companion. You feel the warmth of their hairy bodies, the tangy odor of their breath as they buzz by your head, preparing to sting. If you brought the battle axe, the morning star, or the flail, you may still have a chance to fight for your life against the attacking hornets. To survive, You must kill 3 hornets. If you do so, the others will retreat into their nest. Toss a coin 5 times. Each time it comes up tails, you have killed a hornet. If it comes up at least 3 times out of the 5 tosses, you have killed 3 hornets. You have survived. Okay, so actually you need a coin to play this. Let me see if I can get a coin. Hold on, folks. I forgot that I needed that. I'll be right back. Alright, so we got our coin, because we have to roll a coin to determine the outcome of this battle with these giant hornets. Are they murder hornets? So I just happen to have this, not sure what, I'm not from the UK, so I don't know exactly what this is, but I happen to have this Queen Elizabeth, 1997, yeah, rest in peace. She's passed away recently, so all of our UK friends who are in mourning. Okay, this is a 10. Is this Canadian money? Oh, 10 pence. Okay, why can't I focus on it? Yeah, I've got a 10 pence coin. Alright, so let's see. To determine the outcome of this battle, flip a coin 5 times. Each time it comes up tails, you've killed a hornet. If it comes out 3 out of 5, you have killed 3 hornets. Alright, so let's just record it 5 times. Oops. Okay, so that is tails once. So tails, heads, tails, heads, heads. Okay, that was 5 times, so ooh. If you do not come up with 3 tails, the hornets have beaten you. In fact, you might say you have suffered a stinging defeat. Oh, your mission ends at the mouth of this cave, far from the dragon riders you wish to defeat. Better luck next time as you travel the road of dangerous paths in the world of wizards, warriors, and you. So we got killed. Darn. Well, that was kind of a short adventure. So we got killed by the murder hornets. Now we could go back and try again, but you know how it is. Wizards, warriors, and you. I think we're going to take a break just in the interest of time because I did spend some time ranting and kind of recapping and letting people decide. So I think what we're going to do next, we're going to take a break from that and we're going to read some Star Wars. So let's go back to the beginning. Very good place to start. Let's look at Star Wars A New Hope. Choose your own adventure, just kind of a relaxing kind of ending. Get a little sci-fi action. Again, this is HeroQuest fans. Welcome everybody who joined us, but we're just not doing anything specifically HeroQuest today as far as gaming goes. But tomorrow, we will be playing HeroQuest. We're probably going to be resuming the Frozen Horror. It's possible that we could do Tabletop Simulator and get another GM in here. The only thing is, if the person hasn't used Tabletop Simulator before, they may have to like relearn it. But we'll kind of see if we want to have a guest GM next time tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central Time US, or I can just get out my cameras and we can just play again. I think we're up to Quest 6. Definitely want to hire some mercenaries for that. All right, So this is Choose Your Own Adventure, Star Wars A New Hope by Christopher Golden, limited collector's edition. Illustrated by Eric Cherry. So this is from the 90s. Warning, do not read this book straight through from beginning to end. These pages contain many different adventures that you may have as Luke Skywalker's best friend. Hey. From time to time, as you read along, you will be asked to make a choice. What you decide may mean the difference between a victorious rebel army and a long reign of imperial terror under the Emperor and his minion Darth Vader. The adventures you have are the results of your choices. You are responsible because you choose. After you make a decision, follow the instructions to find out what happens to you next. Think carefully before you act. The Force is in you. You may harness your power for the good of the Rebel Alliance, or you may be seduced by the dark side. It will not always be easy to see the difference between good and evil. You may be forced to sacrifice yourself or your friends for a greater goal. Your life, and indeed the future of the galaxy, depend on your choices you make. Good luck. Alright, let's start the adventure. Okay. Alright, let me just go for it. So next reading, Star Wars, Choose Your Own Adventure, A New Hope. And we'll wrap after that. Okay. And again, join us tomorrow. I love that old book smell. Okay. You live on your parents' moisture farm on the planet Tatooine, a dust ball covered with wind-driven sands and rolling dunes. You hear the exciting stories of the Empire and the Rebellion, and you dream that soon you'll get off Tatooine. As your best friend Luke Skywalker often says, if there's a bright center to the universe, Tatooine is the planet it's farthest from. Luke also wants to get off Tatooine, to do what so many of your friends have done, attend the Imperial Space Academy and become a pilot. Late one night, you're lying in bed thinking about becoming a fighter pilot, though you know you should be thinking about the Imperial Navy. Your thoughts are more and more of the rebels. There's something cool about the rebels, and everyone knows the Emperor is evil. Suddenly you hear a whisper outside your window. Hey! It's Luke. He lives with his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru at their own moisture farm, not far away. Since this is early Luke, maybe he's like, hey! Whiny Luke. Hi, Luke, you answer quietly. What brings you here this late? If your uncle finds out you left the farm, he'll be pretty mad. I'll be in bigger trouble if I don't get our new droid back, Luke mutters. What do you mean, you ask? What happened with the new droid? And which one? That gold protocol droid C-3PO? Shh! Quiet! Your mouth bigger than a meteor shower. No, the little R2 unit, Luke explains. It was the strangest thing. Uncle Owen had me clean them up, and I triggered a holo recording. That little droid just kept repeating part of the holovid over and over. What was it? You ask. Who was it? More like it, Luke answers. This girl, the prettiest girl I've ever seen, with a message for someone named Obi-Wan Kenobi. I couldn't get the whole message to play. Did you try taking off the restraining bolt? You ask. Sometimes those bolts can botch other droid functions. I tried that, but that made the droid even more excited, and the message disappeared completely, Luke says. Alright, turn to 25. I'm going to be in so much trouble, Luke continues. After dinner, I went to check on them, and R2 had run away. Run away? You ask in surprise. How far can an R2 unit get on the sand? Far enough, obviously, Luke replies, frustrated. So what do you think this Obi-Wan is related to that crazy old hermit, Ben Kenobi? You ask. Luke shrugs. I asked Uncle Owen about him. He said that Obi-Wan Kenobi lived... He died. He lived around here for a long time ago, but he's dead now. Anyway, listen. I came over here to ask if you come with me tomorrow. I'll take C-3PO to look for R2, and I could use an extra pair of eyes. Sure, buddy, you say. All you have to do is ask. The next morning, you meet Luke bright and early. You'll probably get in trouble for missing breakfast, but Luke needs help, and he's going to get in much bigger trouble if he doesn't bring R2-D2 back to the farm. You set off across the desert in Luke's land speeder with C-3PO at the controls. You and Luke search the horizon with handheld scanners, trying to find some trace of R2. I can't believe you're letting a droid pilot your speeder, you say. C-3PO. C-3PO seems upset. I'll have you know that piloting ground effect vehicles like Master Luke's land speeder is one of the secondary functions which I have been programmed, he sniffs. In addition, it leaves Master Luke free to scan for some sign of R2. You look over and see that Luke is smiling. I forgot to mention that C-3PO is a bit sensitive, he says. The land speeder whips over the wasteland, just a few feet above the sand. For nearly an hour, you don't see anything. No sign of the tiny scavengers called Jawas, who sold the droids to Luke's uncle, or even the Sand People, called Tusken Raiders, who savagely attack, rob, and sometimes even kill anyone coming into their territory. There's nothing here, you say, hoping Luke will turn around soon. You've been gone too long, and your parents are likely to be pretty angry. There, Luke shouts. You look up to see R2 trundling along the hard-packed desert sand. When you catch up with the droid, Luke is in a rush to take it back to the farm. But R2 beeps and whistles, and C-3PO translates. Apparently, he needs to see Obi-Wan Kenobi. As Luke tries to turn the little droid around, R2 whistles suddenly. His whistles suddenly get louder and frantic. What's that he's saying, C-3PO? You ask. Oh dear, C-3PO says fearfully. R2 says there are several creatures of an unknown type approaching from the southeast. Sand people, Luke cries. Let's take a look. We're doomed, C-3PO wails. Shouldn't we find somewhere to hide instead? Luke agrees with C-3PO, and you help him hide the two droids behind some rocky outcroppings. You and Luke climb to the top of a small hill. With scanners, you search for signs of the Sand People. You see a pair of banthas, the huge hairy creatures they ride, but no Sand People. Not a lot of choices in this one. Again, we're reading A New Hope, Star Wars Choose Your Own Adventure. Ah, we finally get a picture. So there you both are. Then you hear the screams as a Tusken Raider jumps up right in front of you. You shout an alarm and dive out of the way as it attacks you with a club. Luke also jumps clear, but now there are more of them, and you realize they could easily kill you both. You see a hole in their swarm. For a moment, you wonder if you should run. So you can either run, or you can stay and fight. So this is interesting because, of course, you're thinking about the movie and like what happened in the movie. Would the same thing happen? I mean, there's two of you now, so history has changed. So if it follows the movie, let's see, Luke gets beat up, Obi-Wan has to save him. If this is the same as the movie, then we're probably going to be okay if we stay and fight. If we run, we might not find him. I'm going to say stay and fight, even though logically it seems like it would make more sense for us to run. So we'll go to 69. You decide to stay and fight. Even though you know your situation is hopeless, you can't abandon your best friend. Both of you are knocked down. You can hear Luke grunt in pain as one of the Tusken Raiders clubs you in the shoulder and then on the head. And as you're about to black out, you hear a horrible roar, like the hunting cry of a crate dragon. And depending on which version of Star Wars you have, it's going to sound different because they kept changing it. The noise scares the Sand People away, just in time. Another few blows and you and Luke might have been killed. You sit up groggy and stare at the hooded figure coming towards you. The figure pulls back its hood. You recognize the bearded, white-haired old man immediately. Ben Kenobi, you cry. And hello to you too, Ben replies. Is that Luke Skywalker with you? You shake Luke back to consciousness. He is just as surprised to see Ben as you are. We sure are lucky you came along, you tell Ben. The Jundland wastes are not to be traveled lightly, Ben says. What brings you two out this far? Before you answer, turn to page 83. R2 beeps and whistles from his hiding place, then rolls across the hard-packed sand toward old Ben. This little droid here, Luke says, pointing to R2, I think he's searching for his former master. I've never seen such loyalty in a droid. There's no stopping him. He claims to have been the property of someone called Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is that a relative of yours? Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben exclaims. Why, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. Then you know him? You ask. Know him? I should think so. He's me, Ben says, happily. Then R2 belongs to you? Luke asks Ben. I don't seem to ever recall owning a droid, Ben replies. But we really ought to get inside before the Sand People come back. They're easily frightened and won't stay away for long. Alright, turn to 30. Ben leads you to his small home. It's simple, but shelter and basic comfort are all I require, he explains. Ben walks to a corner where he opens a small wooden chest and retrieves a metal cylinder that looks like a handle with buttons. I was once a Jedi Knight, Ben says. You're a Jedi? You and Luke exclaim together. Yes, Ben continues. A long time ago, when the Jedi were the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, I served alongside your father, Luke. My father wasn't a Jedi, Luke says. He was a navigator in a spice freighter. That's what your Uncle Owen wants you to think, Ben explains. The life of a Jedi is dangerous, and your uncle doesn't want that for you. But your father was a cunning warrior, and the best star pilot in the galaxy. He would have wanted you to have this. Ben hands the cylinder to Luke. Luke presses a button, and a long beam of light flashes, extending out about a meter. Is it a lightsaber, the weapon of a Jedi? Ben says. Yahoo! You scream. Well, I guess it's the last time I order you to retreat, Luke cries. Suddenly a gruff voice... Sorry. I turned the wrong page. It's like, why are they screaming? Okay, sorry. The pages aren't quite marked as well as they should be in this one. Okay, go to 13. So you're not screaming. Ben then explains about the Force, the energy field that connects all living things, and from which Jedi Knights get their power. But the Force, he explains, has a dark side, to which some Jedi, like his former student Darth Vader, have fallen prey. Suddenly R2 begins to beep urgently. Go on, R2, you say. Show us this urgent message. General Kenobi, begins a hologram of a beautiful girl. Years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now we beg you to help us in our struggle against the Empire. I have placed information vital to the security of the Rebellion into the memory systems of this R2 unit. You must see this droid safely to my father on Alderaan. Please help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Who is she? Luke asks. You can see that he is intrigued by the girl. She is Princess Leia Organa of the Royal House of the planet Alderaan. Alderaan. He always pronounced it that way. Ben explains, officially, she is an Imperial Senator, but secretly, she is a leader of the Rebel Alliance. A princess. Very impressive. Turn to page 91. Yeah, this is definitely not as interactive as some of the other books I've been reading. I think it's more just to put you into the movie, basically. With very little changes. Now then, Luke, Ben continues, you and your young friend must learn the ways of the Force if you're to accompany me to Alderaan. Both of you stare at Ben in shock. You have responsibilities to your family, and Luke's Uncle Owen must be pretty angry if Luke just up and left the planet. On the other hand, you say to Luke, I've been looking for some adventure, and my parents have plenty of help on the farm. I'll bet they'd be proud of me for helping the rebellion. Good for you, Luke says, but not for me. I'd like to help you, Ben, but I've been gone so long already, I'll be in big trouble when I get home. I can take you as far as Anchorhead, and you can get passage to Mos Eisley Spaceport from there. Together, you, Luke, Ben, and the droids leave Ben's home and climb into the Landspeeder for the trip to Anchorhead. Speed along to page 4. Suddenly, you spot smoke on the horizon. Luke pilots the Landspeeder in that direction. It's a huge Jawa sandcrawler, and it's on fire. It has been attacked, and all the Jawas have been killed. At first, it seems as though the Sand People have done it. But on an investigation, you discover clues that point to the Imperial soldiers Ben says are called Stormtroopers. The Stormtroopers probably destroyed the sandcrawler because they were looking for R2 and C-3PO. You sense great danger. Oh no, Luke exclaims. They must know by now the Jawas sold the droids to Uncle Owen, and that would lead them back. Luke turns and runs to the Landspeeder. You have only a moment to decide whether to go with him or to stay with Ben and the droids. Oh man. Well, in the movie, of course, we know he would go there and see the devastation and come back. I wonder if that means, does that mean your family gets killed too, or just Luke's family? That's dark. Okay, well, we could stay and wait. I wonder what Ben talked about while was waiting. I don't know. I think our friend needs us. Let's go with him. So let's go with Luke. So option 1 to go with Luke. Unless anybody objects. Alright, you want to stay with Ben and learn about the Force. Maybe someday you'll be a Jedi yourself. But even though R2's safety is vital to the rebellion, you know you have to go home with Luke. He's your best friend, and he and his family come first. You jump into the land speeder with Luke and race across the desert. From far away, you can see smoke rising from his aunt and uncle's moisture farm. When you arrive, you stare at the burning buildings of the farm in shock. Luke jumps out. You go after him. Uncle Owen! He shouts, Aunt Beru! You shout with him. When no one answers, you both know the awful truth. Luke's family is dead. The stormtroopers